Hello! Welcome to Aurora Cellars virtual happy hour. We are here on a beautiful day at the tasting room. I'm Dawn, your wine club manager, and today my co-host is Drew. He's our head winemaker for Aurora Cellars. So thank you for being here, Drew.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a
Glad
nice day. It's good to get out finally. I'm usually stuck in the cellar all day long, so it's good to get away from the purple walls and the 40-degree temperatures and get out in the sunlight and get some vitamin D. So it's a good change of pace.
Yeah.
Good to see everyone, and glad people could check this out and enjoy it. But yeah.
Very fun. We're glad to have you all here. We are having some water. Oh, look who's coming.
There we go.
This is where it starts.
There we go.
We've got Bonnie and Bubbles. Hey, guys.
Lovely rosé for you, perfectly chilled.
Oh,
Cheers.
thank you so much. We love it. Thanks. We needed this for a happy hour.
All right, well.
All right.
So
Enjoy.
we'll go back to the tasting.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Nice
Thanks.
to see you.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Nice.
Oh, that's a nice sound.
That's a glass.
So-
Break out the big ones.
So you guys don't have to wait. So we want to know what Aurora Cellars wine you're opening with us today, or when you watch coming up this weekend, and let us know in the comments. I have the rosé. What do you have?
I'm drinking Sauvignon Blanc. It's been a fun wine for me. Fun wine, more from the making perspective, from the growing perspective. It's one of the more challenging of wines, just because it can go in any direction. Any wine that one of the common descriptors is cat pee is a wine that scares me. But luckily we were able to stay away from that. We're able to kind of get more of that interesting herbaceousness, sort of that weird, it's almost like an underripe, kind of like a firm kiwi, but it has some of those kind of lemongrass notes, and that's always cool that we can get that. There was a lot of doubt for a long time that we could do Sauvignon Blanc in Michigan.
Is that what you mean by going in different directions, like the flavors that come out depending on temperature and
it's
weather?
the aromatics. The aromatic profiles, it's a unique aromatic compound. A lot of different varieties have it. Sauvignon Blanc has it in spades. It's just what's known as a kind of broadly as a thiol. It just means that its family of aromatics include a lot of things, and a lot of things that aren't necessarily positive. Things like cabbage.
Oh.
There are aromatics that you can drive in the wrong direction accidentally, and you don't actually have a lot of control. It's all about how you ripen the fruit, how you process it, and what you try to pull out of it. But unfortunately, it's not quite like brewing. You can't just sort of recipe it and just pull these things out. You get lucky.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah,
the more knowledge you have, the more control you have, but you don't have that.
I haven't gotten a couple of those negative things out of that, so that's wonderful.
That's
good
good.
job. Good job. It sells out really fast.
Yeah.
And we actually are holding that for our wine club members.
Cool.
So we have enough.
Good.
So if you are not a wine club member, you can always sign up, and that will be available. But we are keeping that
Good.
just for our members.
We'll have more in the future for those who aren't members just yet. But we do plan on producing more. I know this coming year we have the fruit looks like there's a lot of potential. We're going to have more accessible this year. So this was the first sort of real or decent vintage of the Sauvignon Blanc. So there's always the very first vintage, which is a very light fruit set, kind of unrealistic fruit, just in that's never going to be like that first year. This is really the first crop, so it was good to finally get a real shot at it.
That's one thing we're kind of focusing on today, is talking about the vineyards. And one of the questions we get often in the tasting room is like, how long are vines planted before you get the harvest that you can actually produce wine from? Is that varied?
Generally speaking, we're planting something that's been propagated. So it's been, it was grown, and then they took a cutting, and then they actually grafted on a rootstock onto a young plant, and they basically keep it for a year, and then they send it to you. So you kind of almost have this year-old plant that you get. and then you put it in the
the
ground.
ones that look like a stick?
Yeah, like a stick.
Just a stick.
They come looking like a stick with a ball of wax around it, and then you have another stick down below with roots. So that's the rootstock.
Oh, got it.
The reason for that is kind of ancient. At least originally, it was because of something called phylloxera, which wiped out most of Europe. It's like an aphid.
I remember reading about that.
And so our rootstocks are actually resistant to it. And so they are often American rootstocks that we graft.
Mm-hmm.
They also happen to have various benefits, such as, the way their roots drive down, or how they handle drought, or how they control the vegetative growth up top. So they have some influence on what we call the scion, which is the top portion. So you have your roots, which are one thing, and then you have Blaufränkisch on top.
And so what we're looking at is that top part.
Yeah. This little triangle up here, that is gonna be it. This will be its first harvest.
Okay,
So,
and that's been in 3 seasons, right?
Yep.
So after that year stick, I'm gonna try to.
What happens is it
try
grows.
to understand. A year stick comes, we plant that stick, and this is our 3rd year.
Yep.
Having it, and this is what it looks like now.
Yeah. So what happens is it grows that
That's
first
amazing.
season.
Yeah.
And then after that first year of growth, we try to keep it going up to the wires, to the trellis. That next late winter, early spring, we come in. We actually cut it back to the 6 strongest buds. And then we let it do that all over again. And then the next year, after that, we come back and we actually will then tie it onto the vine. Generally speaking, that first year we get maybe at most 20% of a real crop.
Oh, wow.
So you can get fruit in the second year. A lot of times we'll actually intentionally drop it if the vine is showing any signs of weakness. In that 3rd year, you should start getting about 60% of a normal crop. 4th year, you're good to go.
Wow. So this is going to be, we'll watch this.
Yeah, we'll have a small crop off of it. Yep.
Harvest. And I have the rosé that we have a little bit of Merlot. You can't see it, but this way, north of us. And how's that doing?
It's doing well. We are kind of retraining some of it. It was just kind of some of the plant material just needed to be retrained from the beginning.
Yeah.
Merlot, this is not a rosé of Merlot. It's actually the color comes from Merlot, if people are wondering. So I always look at rosés as sort of 2 categories. Your old school blush, which is pretty much a white wine that you add back red to, or there's the other style of more of like that classic rosé, which is skin extraction, but to a lighter extent, which gives you that pink. You can get the same color. This is more of a blush in that we actually field blended Chardonnay and Pinot Grigio this year, and then blended in some Merlot in order to get that same color that we would go for.
But fruit forward, once again, great aromatics, and it's dry.
Yeah.
Which is what I really like.
Yeah, generally speaking, I mean, my favorite wines are always the just whites and rosés that are dry, but have a full body to them. We're very much known for our acid here in Michigan, and just the way it counters food and the way it works. But in all honesty, I prefer a wine that doesn't rely on food, because I can't make food, so there's that. Which is, not beneficial.
Wait, you can't make food?
No, not great at it.
Oh, no, your poor family.
I survive.
You survive?
But in terms of culinary expertise, not much.
I've seen some snacks in the cellar, so I'm not sure if you guys are surviving or not. But so there's some interesting things, and it's fun to just get to know each other for fun. We're having fun at happy hour.
Yep.
What, in college...
Yep.
What was your favorite snack in college?
The old snack story. This all originates, and just so people understand where this all came from. This was from when Sam, who we've known each other since college, the owner, along with his sister Taylor.
Yeah.
Sam.
Co-owners.
We were in school together. So I was in school for viticulture and enology. And Sam initially was in the viticulture and enology courses. Sort of the long story of how we met is just, we met in those classes, but my father was actually the head of horticulture at the time, which it was underneath.
Yeah.
And so he canceled the viticulture and enology program while I was in it. I was far enough along that I was able to finish. Sam wasn't. So Sam went into finance, which was a much better decision.
It all worked out. It all worked
out for the better. But needless to say, I had met Sam, so we had some courses together. I think we had a plant. Oh gosh, I think it was a plant biology course that he still is bitter to this day that I got a better grade than him in. But yeah, we were working on a project together, and he still makes fun of me to this day. The first time we ever had lunch, quote unquote, together, because my lunch that I brought up to him was 8 corn dogs, which, to be fair, I offered him one. He didn't take it, but I mean, it's college.
Corn dogs
that's how
in
you
college.
Eat.
That's
Yes.
fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
That.
I don't often share things like this, but I survived on Gardettos and Mountain Dew in college.
Yeah.
I didn't yet drink coffee. Now I love coffee. So.
And we had the discussion earlier how you can actually get the Gardettos rye chips in just a bag. But the rye chips in the Gardettos mix are better than the one that's just in the bag.
Okay, but have you gotten just the rye chips and a bag of Gardettos and combined them so you get more rye
It's
chips?
not the same. It's not the same. There's something about the way they sort of they mix in and marinate in the Gardettos mix. I don't know. It just works out better.
That's awesome. Yeah, so those are fun facts about our college days, which I feel like mine were a very long time ago.
Yeah.
So.
Sam makes fun of me for is I was in college for a very long time, long enough that still nobody calls me doctor, unfortunately.
I could start calling you doctor.
It wouldn't really be appropriate.
I had no idea you wanted that.
No. It's just I was in long enough to be one, but
awesome.
Unfortunately.
That is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to remember things, I know, because we've been out of college for so long. I was trying to remember winter, and I couldn't come up with... I remember it was cold. It felt long because we don't have spring.
Winter, yeah.
And then I don't remember snowshoeing very often, so I think we waited for snow.
No, yeah, this winter... Well, this winter was...
And speaking about the grapes, they didn't have a horrible winter.
This winter was a lot of panic, but it was honestly kind of undue. I mean, it's not that I'm going to panic no matter what. But the reason for a lot of panic was that the last 2 winters were very mild, abnormally mild. And so we I wouldn't say we reverted back to more of a normal one, but it just wasn't as mild as it was previously. We also didn't have a lot of snow, which made it definitely less fun in terms of just activities in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I never got out skiing because every time you could ski, it was so cold I couldn't take my dogs out, which I always like skiing with my dogs.
Yeah. Exactly.
Couldn't snowshoe. Yeah, nothing. But luckily, it wasn't cold enough to actually cause real damage to the vines. We hit some low single digits, but it wasn't for long enough period of time, and things weren't exposed enough. So we're, in terms of vines, we're good.
Good. It wasn't like consecutive days and nights of below. Like, what was that? 2015,
2014, and 2015.
Those were those treacherous winters.
Yeah,
so that's
people always
good.
talk about the polar vortex, all that stuff. 2014 was the real bad one. Everything froze over. I had a picture of, I was out hiking at the end of Old Mission Peninsula where you could see straight across there's somebody on their bike in the middle of East Bay, like between.
Yes.
Like, I mean, you get the picture. Like in the very middle between Grand Traverse Resort and the tip of Old Mission Peninsula, there was somebody biking, and it was March 30th. So I mean, that's late to be completely frozen over, and I mean, it's.
I don't remember when it was, but I was driving from Traverse City at night to out back here, and along 22, and there were headlights coming at me in various angles off the bay because it
From
was
snowmobiles.
frozen and they were driving out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I on the road?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was. We don't need to repeat that.
No. It's we do honestly, unfortunately, sort of bake that into our acceptance of reality.
Yeah.
We go with the 1 in every 10-year rule. Now we're
Yeah.
banking on we had 2 years back to back, so that gives us 20 years.
Ooh, I don't know.
But
I don't know.
we'll see on that. No, this last year though, when people
That's good.
as a lot of people were kind of panicking, one thing that people weren't really thinking about was the fact that yes, it was cold, but a lot of people were waiting. Okay, when is everything going to freeze over? The winter actually started kind of late. December was warm, and so while February and March were cold, December was actually abnormally warm. So everything kind of ebbs and flows, and this spring has been bizarre as usual, because bizarre is the norm. There is no norm. That's the norm.
There is no spring.
No, there's just
I don't
no-
even count spring. Like
Yeah.
we just go from winter into
This
summer.
is one of the worst I've seen. in
We
terms of
had
that.
80 degrees. Was it the beginning of March or April?
We hit 90s.
And then we had snow at the end of April. Not that stayed very long, but it snowed.
We hit 90s way earlier than we usually hit 90
Yeah.
degrees, and it's just one of those things. So yeah, in terms of we have this normal, we have all these different vine physiological phases we look at. So bud break is one. And a lot of plants are like this. So if you look at, we mark everything by certain developmental phases. One thing I saw was a lot of areas normally tarts and sweets are not at the same time in terms of cherries when they bloom.
Right?
They were pretty much all at the same time this year, and there was a lot more crossover than normal. All the grape varieties were in bud break all at once because it hit 90s for multiple days in a row. Everything got all excited, and everything just went at once. And so, yeah, that caught us off guard. Well, luckily we caught up and kind of collected ourselves, but it was a very abnormal bud break. It made for it a little uneven bud break, but now it's kind of like everything has settled down. The weird thing about this year that I've noticed is that if you look at the numbers overall that we look at in terms of just how we judge quality, we use a term, growing degree days. We are average for the last 5 years, so we are good.
Wow.
That's good. But it's not in a normal way. It's because we are getting big spikes, and then we're getting cool period, and then we're getting then we're getting
So
big
the
spikes, and then we're
average
getting
is showing the
average
same,
is great,
but
yeah.
it's not
the average
really
is dead
average.
on 2020, which is a good year. But it's just been very bizarre to see that. Like we're hitting that number because of the extremes. So we'll see where things end up. And just anybody can tell you that really wines in terms of growing conditions, they're made in the vineyard in end of August, beginning of September. That's the important time.
This looks beautiful now.
Looks great. Yeah.
It looks beautiful, and so you're saying 5-6 weeks is when you'll really start taking note and measuring what you're gonna do for harvest and when, and because then the September could be.
Who knows?
Sorry.
Well, if you think back
we can't do a forecast for harvest before it happens.
If you think back to like 2017, it was trending not very well. It was one of the kind of lesser 3 years in the last 20 years. If you looked at the spring and early summer, and then all of a sudden the end of the summer and then fall, it just kept going and it warmed up, and it ended up being a great year in the end because of where we got the heat. But yeah, I mean that's where these years can be deceptive. You might get the heat early on.
2017 when we saw like people swimming in West Bay in October?
Probably. Yeah, I mean I have a lot of pictures of like harvest where it's like where everything's all sunny and it was hot, and then if you looked at 2018, the same day in October it was a blizzard. And so I mean
You guys are out there. Like,
yeah.
are you guys out there?
Yeah.
Can't tell out back in the production area. I have seen, just the variants.
Everybody remembers vintages for one thing or another, especially in the wine world, but we remember them for other things in production. More spiteful things.
Right. I wanted to ask some basic questions. Questions that are awesome that we hear from people a lot in the tasting room. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the questions and give them a chance, people who are listening, to answer in the comments, like have a chance to have an answer, and then we'll go through those after.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sure.
And I know you have a time frame, so I'm watching the time too.
So,
do you grow your own grapes is something we hear often. And I have to mention Devin. She's here with us again. She's our technical awesome helper, digital marketing manager. She's taking care of us here so that we can have fun just chatting. And the next one is, are they all on this estate, the grapes? And then, how old are our vines? The next one is, how long before you can have a harvest after planting vines, which we already kind of touched on, so I might just nix that one. And then, how many bottles can you get from a red wine acre of vineyard? Now, this is one I was throwing at you. So I'm thinking red, because I think there's different answers depending on the varietal, right? All right, so those are some questions we hear a lot. And in the tasting room, we find answers. We go find Drew, and he's super patient with me when I go to the cellar, and he's in the middle of, intense talking about the wine or fermenting or all the things that they do that I don't really understand. And he'll be, so nice and just answer my questions. So I'm happy to be able to come back and share with our wine club members or guests that visit in the winery. It's really a good thing.
I got the bottles thing if you want that.
You got the bottles?
Yeah.
So did you get that one up on, did anybody?
Well, I'm going to answer it anyway. It's 1,800 bottles. 1,800 bottles per.
1,800 bottles.
Per. If you're farming rationally and it's a decent variety, but you're farming rationally, you should be able to get about 1,800 bottles.
So that's 1,800 bottles in 1 acre of planted red wine vines.
150 cases, ish.
I could not come up with that fast enough. 150 cases. That's incredible. That's really neat. I love those numbers. I love thinking about that. And I had this whole chart where somebody once asked me how many grapes were in one bottle. And
that one I don't.
But I told them, I told them 18 to 23.
Oh, really?
If you push them in there.
Just force them in. Yeah, they are all
and
different.
They knew we had a good rapport, so they were having fun. But I'm I'll have to get back to you on that actual figure. So thank you, 1,800 bottles from 1 acre of red wine vineyard. That's something I might be able to remember now. That's cool. Sounds like a lot of wine. What does Aurora do? What are we looking at for cases? Is that even something we could?
I had thought we were more around 5,500 or so, but
yeah,
it sounds
I was
about
thinking
right.
8 to 9. But I don't know. I just keep sending it.
I don't count cases. So
I
it's
keep
hard to say.
I keep sending it, and then we have different vintages and things. So it's all delicious and award winning. So that's fun. All right. So we gave you time to answer. So now I'm gonna learn some of these other things. So,
Sure.
I know some of these. Do we grow our own grapes? So we do. We do. We have a couple things we supplement. The Rosso. I think that's it now. Is that it? So
yes.
technically, I think.
Yeah.
That's it, because we had those winters that we alluded to, and now we're back onto our estate wines. So estate meaning right here on Aurora Cellars property, but then Sam and Taylor,
We have
they
a lot
have
of other
vineyards all over the peninsula?
Yeah, in general, in terms of our farming company, we own and farm 180 acres of our own. And so what we've done is we've actually isolated off very specific vineyards for Aurora Cellars for certain wines, knowing that we want to have a very specific profile, and we want to be able to keep it consistent year in and year out. It makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, and everything is in Leelanau County.
Leelanau County, and it's spread out because I always talk about how if we did have one of the storms that come through, you don't want to have everything right here and lose everything.
Yeah, one estate vineyard's very risky.
Lots of vineyards and lots of different properties from the owners, so that's wonderful.
Well, it's nice. It helps in terms of growing. It helps us sort of shape wines, and that we can pull things from different areas. Every vineyard has its own unique qualities, and everything develops differently. So we can make decisions about a wine that we want to make based upon how things are developing. So it's like it gives us a lot more options, a lot more choices, because the wines are obviously made in the vineyard, and so that we need those choices. We need not just be like forced into like making a wine based upon this one block.
Right.
We need to be able to say, okay, I like the way this is developing on this hillside, therefore this area is going to be able to become the Aurora Pinot Grigio. So yeah.
So we have questions about how old the vines are, and that's kind of tough too, because we are every year I've been around, we've planted new vineyards, and then there's some vineyards that came from Sam and Taylor's family generations ago. So that's a tough one. But when you guys are planning new vineyards, are you really planning out that you'll have that vineyard for about how many years? I've tried to talk about that.
Yeah, generally speaking, you start to see a lot of decline after 25 years. You can keep a vineyard going for on average about 35.
That's
but
a long
it
time.
definitely is not producing well once you get over 25 years.
Okay.
It depends on how aggressive you were with it, how it was treated.
Sure.
Just like a kid, if you were just if you're a little too hard on it, it's not going to do well later. So
we also give parenting tips.
Yes.
No, that's interesting. I think that's a long time. I don't know that people realize the investment and the time and how many years that's going to be. Yeah. So that is a lot of those questions that we get, and it's fun to share those answers.
So obviously everything is not just from here.
No,
this is not big enough.
Nope.
And we do have quite a bit more now. I think we are now back to 20 planted acres on site, so that's good.
Because the baby shard.
Yep.
That's our second year.
Yep.
Second year. It looks beautiful. I know you can't see it, but last time at the last virtual happy hour, I made sure you could see our baby shard.
Yep.
This time it's 3-year-old Bluff Frankish, and next time I'm not sure. We might see a willow tree or something, because next time on August 11th we are going to have Christy Brown is going to sit with me and talk about our events.
Cool.
So all the things we do on the other side of the vineyard, and a little bit here at the tasting room. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
Let's see. The last thing I wanted to ask you, and you actually mentioned this when you were talking about corn dogs, is you mentioned words that we throw out there a lot, but sometimes people don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
Viticulture.
Yeah.
And enology. So can you help us with what those are?
Sometimes fancy people like to throw an O on front of enology.
Oenology?
It's actually O-E-N-ology. Or just enology is fine.
Okay.
I mean, traditionally, where I went, it was just enology. But if you're fancy, you can throw an O on it on the front.
I want to be fancy.
I know, me
I'm
too.
gonna put an O on there.
Enology.
I didn't know.
So enology, we are talking the science of making wine. Viticulture itself, it is vine physiology and vineyard farming. So
Okay.
it generally, viticulture is far more vine physiology and just understanding of vines, whereas enology it's not quite broad fermentation science. You do cover some other aspects. We did a little bit of distillation, things like that, but it is we very much focus just on fermentation and creation of wine.
Did you do that in a specific sense since you were in Michigan when you had your program? Was it like, did you concentrate on what grows in Michigan, or were you kind of concentrating on this degree which covered the world and all the
It was
regions?
definitely more the program I was in was far more focused on our region and because we had a lot of well-known researchers, and so that's kind of where they were pulling all their knowledge from, and so they were dealing with a lot of hybrid wines and a lot of stuff that grows in the area. So we definitely talked a lot more about that, more so than we did, say, wine culture in general.
Okay.
It was always around and talked about, but it was never quite the focus. And then we had some of the world's most well-renowned vine physiologists, viticulturalists on staff. So people who knew their stuff inside and out were the ones teaching us, which was great. Unfortunately, things change. A lot of knowledge changed over the years, and I still make kind of get on all the guys from MSU, because nowadays their latest guy, Paolo Sabatini, who is actually just became full professor, which he'll never see this, but congrats, Paolo.
Congratulations.
Paolo, every time I have him up, he is. I swear I wasted all my money in college, because everything has changed almost every year. It's just a lot of the concepts. It's always great to learn, to know and understand, but that's the important thing, is that you have to keep progressing, because
yeah,
everything.
That's so
many
true.
concepts
I bet
have
that's
changed.
true in many degrees, but that's neat, and I think this is an endless amount of learning. I like wine because of that.
Yeah.
Every time I learn something, there's like 500 other things to learn about that thing I thought I learned.
It's exhausting.
So it's fun.
Sure.
It's fun. So I'm gonna do. Are you doing fine with time?
Fine. Yep.
So I just have a few things to wrap up here. Devin, is there any questions or anything you have from your side of the camera?
Nope.
Okay. I just wanted to give some updates before we sign off today. We have the Late Harvest Vigneul is back. Yes, it is. It's time. I have some great people to email to let them know. And if you are interested in the Late Harvest Vigneul, it's back. So you can always email me, wineclub@auroracellars.com, and I'll make sure we can get that to you. The Wine Club dinner, I just put that live up on the website yesterday, and that is August 13th. We're going to do a Saturday evening. Drew, are you going to join us?
That's what I hear.
Yes! So, Wine Club dinner on August 13th, and Drew and I will be there. We're going to have lots of fun, and Abundance Catering out of Northport is doing the dinner for us, so we're just really shout out to Abundance Catering for being there for us on a Saturday in August. Thank you. So then we have, let's see, oh my gosh, something really soon is Sunday. There's Cellar Sundays that are really fun from noon to 5. And this Sunday is July 17th. We have Luke Waltansky. He's a young man who plays music all over the area and is just very talented. He's going to do live music from 3 to 5.
Fun.
So, and there's going to be a red cherry sangria is a special. And the cheese lady we're doing a flight of cheese lady dips that is going to be a special for that day. So Cellar Sunday is going to be really fun. And I have to check and make sure I'm not missing anything. And the last thing is just our next virtual happy hour is August 11th. It's a Thursday. And we're going to be focused on events. And we're going to be talking with Christy Brown. So is there anything else you want to share or sign off with?
No, I'm good. I'm always here. Any questions anybody has?
You finished your wine.
I did. Long day.
So thank you all. Thank you, Drew. I really appreciate you being here to chat with me and share college stories.
Yep.
So goodbye, everyone. Thank you.